Greetings. This is Arvette McLean with Speak, The Universe Listens. New ways to view age-old challenges. Change your thoughts, change your life. Step into the bigness of you.
What's going on, guys?
Hey.
What's up, Steve? Hey.
Oh my gosh, it's so good to be back.
I know it. I ain't seen you since what, 2023?
Yeah.
It's been a while. So I wanted to talk to you guys today about vulnerability. I had it was probably 2-3 days ago when I was just thinking about the topic. I was watching a podcast and they were talking about vulnerability, being vulnerable. And you know how sometimes when you just be sitting there and you be thinking about something and the light bulb just go off and you're thinking about yourself, right? And how it sort of relates to you. And so I thought about it for me and I was like, dang, I get it. I was like, I understand, I get it. So I just wanted to talk about just far as with vulnerability, how it is one of the big key factors as far as your growth. And we talk about 3D and 5D dimension. So just wanted to talk about it a little bit and get some input from you guys. See what you think about it.
So what about vulnerability?
Well, for me, it hit home because I realized that just along my journey, I had this mindset of not wanting to tell people anything, because if I tell people what I'm going through or what's on my mind, right, I will be seen as it's almost like being weak, and so I'm open, right? And for me, just over time, I just had to learn that when you share your vulnerabilities with people that actually care about you and love you, it opens up opportunity for you to grow, because when you're in 5D, it's all love. It's nothing but love. And so that's something that sort of, the light bulb went off in my head, and I'm like, so I wonder why I was stuck in a certain position in my life, because I'm sitting back and I'm still holding on to the attachment of, I can't be weak in front of nobody, or, I can't be vulnerable. But not actually realizing, if I do be vulnerable, the things that I'm probably seeking and looking for, it literally are, right there. So I'm stunting my growth. So that's what I was thinking about when I thought about vulnerability.
And see, I like this topic too, because I think about it. I feel like I've been facing it. Not a lot recently, but I could think of 2 pockets where I faced it in 2 completely different ways. I remember when I was first looking for a job as I was unemployed, it was a struggle for me to say, hey, I need help. Or I don't even know if it was a struggle for me to say, hey, I need help. It was more so I felt more comfortable pretending being some version of myself versus being the version of me that was ready to embrace the next step. So instead, I felt more comfortable pretending that situation. I play victim a lot, actually. Man, I think about it, I felt a lot more comfortable playing the victim role of the last situation versus hey, y'all, I'm looking at a door and I'm about to go face a change, and I don't know if I'm really ready for what's next, but at the same time, I want to embrace it, but also I was afraid to tell anybody, I feel like I'm about to see a massive change in my life. But that was just complicated for me. And then the second example was, I just told you guys, what if I have a tough week at work or whatever, I have a friend who I just don't contact, and I realize that's it. Honestly, it's a fake vulnerability thing. I actually feel a little inauthentic when I do it to her. It's if I'm having a bad week, instead of calling and saying hey, having a tough week, this is what I'm going through, right, I don't want to speak to her unless I'm having a good time, or unless things are peaches and cream. And I think when I think about vulnerability, that really is that for me. It's like, you know, if I'm more vulnerable and more open to be the full me, I'm more open to the next experiences that can happen versus I'm closing off my access to all that is connected to me by just being in a shell of like, nah, I'm gonna keep it to myself. But like, if I'm keeping it to myself, how am I supposed to feel the love that's around me? So yeah, that's what I think.
So times I could think of when I'm vulnerable is when I feel like I don't have the answer to something. So like, I don't know what to do next, or I don't know where it's going, or things like that. I can feel vulnerable in that state. And what I had to realize was that it's okay to not know the answers to everything. It's okay to not have it all figured out. And not knowing all the answers and not trying to have everything figured out, I'm able to open myself up to all the possibilities of a bunch of different things happening.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Because it feel like at some point in my life, I stopped using the word vulnerable and I started using the word open. I wanted to be more open to people and things around me because I always felt like vulnerable has such a negative connotation. Like you said, like it gives you, like when you hear vulnerable, you think weak. And I'm like, well, I don't think that. But like I do want to be more open. And so I try and just change the word a little because I feel as though when I'm more open with everybody, I don't know, I just feel like better things are happening in my life. Like, ironically, not ironically, because it makes perfect sense. But yeah, so I just like to be a little more open, and even when I think about vulnerability in the past, I always thought about it as a knock. But then also I started flipping and I started feeling like that was my biggest strength. The reality of it was, if you ask me what is something I do well, it's connecting with others, and I think that ability comes from I'm just willing to be authentically open with everybody, and I want to embrace them as their authentic selves as well. So I actually never forget a conversation I was having with my dad one time, and I cried a little bit. He was like, yeah, no, man, you know, we don't do that. And I was like, well, no, I disagree. I think that's exactly what we do. And I think that it makes me a little stronger that I did it. And so he was like, and I was like, you know, I think it's all about perspective. He's like, you know, son, I didn't think about it like that. You might be right. And I just remember leaving his house, and that moment for me felt good. I was like, yeah, because I left his house feeling like I had stood up for like me being me. And then I also left feeling like as I did that, he accepted that as well. And I was like, well, no, like, I just thought that, you know, you just kept everything to yourself. And I was like, nah, I like to be expressive. And so, yeah, I think that, you know, when you're afraid to be vulnerable with others or afraid to be open with others, I think you run the risk of not presenting your full self. And I think that everybody here is just too great not to present their full selves.
Yeah, you know, I like you said that because it helped me just over the years, just helped me be my more authentic self. I know literally just recently, I had to face it again as to where I had one of my family members, they needed somewhere to stay, right? They asked me, they called me up, you know, I'm listening to the violin play in the background, and I'm listening to the story, and when they asked me, I was like, because I'm the guy that everybody knows as like, you know, oh, Steve, yeah, you know, Steve got you, he got you. But I really had to, you know, communicate and express my true self. Like, nah, I don't want to do that, you know. And it wasn't negative, but it was just like I knew that was something that I really didn't want to do. Now, before, I probably would have said, yeah, bit my tongue, you know, felt bad about it. Now, I'm feeling bad for a decision that I made, knowing that I didn't even want that from the get-go, you know what I'm saying? So just by me being able to be open, speak my truth, you know, it stung a little bit, it felt a little bit weird, you know, because how everybody see me as like, you know, the go-to person, the person, you know, you can lean on whenever, but realizing if that's not what I want, that's not what I want, you know, so. Yeah, so I feel you, Teron. I feel you.
And a lot of times for me these days, if I'm being vulnerable, like in an expressive way, like expressing how I'm feeling or something.
Right.
Or if I'm like upset about something. A lot of times, I ain't even thinking about you judging me. I just needed to get it off.
You just need to get.
And I don't necessarily think about the person listening on the other end, how they feeling or judging me, because for one, I'm telling it to someone who I'm comfortable with, and for two, I know how I feel about myself. So a lot of times we got the answers to things, and we know what to do. We know how we want to feel. But we just I just needed to vent. I just needed to be vulnerable for a second.
Right.
Now, after that, I'm good. But I said all that to say, yeah, I'm not expressing myself and being quote unquote vulnerable, thinking of how somebody else feeling about me.
And then I also too, just recently I opened up, close friend of mine, and I vented, like, I had a rough day. I had everything planned out, right? I knew what I was gonna do, right? I just had it all mapped up. It didn't go the way that I planned, right? So normally, I'm the only person I vent to. I really don't call nobody and just be like, hey, man, let me tell you what just happened to me. I don't do that, So this time it was a little bit different because, like I said, I just got the awareness of it's okay to just open up, you know what I'm saying? After I did that, I felt good, it calmed me down a little bit, because at first I was walking around like a chicken with my head cut off, right? All of my feelings, but it just made me realize, like, I think that's one of the big key factors that's probably been holding me back just in a certain area of my life is just not opening up, and not I ain't gonna say not, but just having the mindset of thinking like everybody is against you, or everybody want to talk about you, and so just removing that thought process and just being like, that's not the case, because there's people out here that really do love you and care about you, and want to see the best for you. So
I think what you said really to me is key. So, the word I don't know. I think when you say open versus being vulnerable, but I think part of what Stephen is communicating is he's saying vulnerable. Because I asked Stephen, what did he mean by being vulnerable? And I can't remember exactly what he said, but it was something to the effect of opening yourself up to, you're taking a risk. And I guess kind of what Rodney just said, like, I'm not afraid of being judged. Like, so I feel like for me, the conversation is different, I think, than what it would be for males, right? I think we're just moving into the time in society where it's acceptable for males to be open like that. So I typically don't have the issues. Like, even when I was strictly third dimensional reality, that wasn't really one of my issues, because I'm like, I'll tell it like it is. It happened. Right. I'm not embarrassed by, there was a time in my life, I think, because I was sexually abused, and I felt like that was like a mark on me,
right.
Like, or whatever. So for a while, probably, till I was probably like 20, I really didn't share that information. But I remember reading a book, and the book say, if these things have happened to you, the first thing you need to do is tell someone. And then the next sentence say, tell everyone, right? And so I think that set me free, and because I remember the very first person I told was my current husband. He wasn't my husband at that time, but that was the first person I told. And the world didn't fall apart, like I wasn't, I didn't have to walk around with a scarlet letter or anything like that. And so told everyone. And so when I wrote my book, When Black Women Speak, so many people were like, how are you able to say these things out loud? Like, why can you do that? What makes you able to do that? And like when I wrote the book, that was the furthest thing from my mind, is that that's something to be ashamed of or whatever. But of course, this is what, like 30 years later after, you know, I learned to tell everybody, you know. So I really haven't had a lot of issues with being vulnerable. But what Stephen said, the reason why I say there's a slight difference between being open and being vulnerable is because of the risk part. Like the risk, the fear that if I share, then I'm gonna be judged or something bad is gonna happen. So that I think I was thinking about this today, because that's very third dimensional thinking. We feel like it's something on the outside of us that can harm us. And I would think that a lot of us have moved, like in the world, a lot of us are moving from third dimension into fourth dimensional thinking, which would be realizing that it's okay for me to open myself up, to put myself at the risk, to be willing to put myself out there. So that's kind of like a fourth dimensional concept. Like, you know, I like me. If you don't like me, sorry for you. You know, that's kind of a fourth dimensional concept. But like going into the fifth dimensional construct of that is realizing there's nothing outside of you that can harm you. And I am you. You know, so when it's really like a perspective shift or whatever. So when we're facing the world, like, okay, it's something out there, you know, people gonna judge me, or somebody's gonna take this information and do something with it, or they're not gonna see me the same, or they're gonna see me as weak, or, you know, like the world is out to get you. And you live your life from that place, like Stephen said, the world is against you. You live your life from that space, and that does, it makes things hard. It makes things hard, you know. And then like shifting into a fifth dimensional space is to realize that I am you. We are the same energy. We're the same. But it's a mental shift, right? Because I know people who might be listening to this in third dimension or even in fourth dimensional reality, they'd be like, but no, people are out to hurt you. But we're such powerful creators that if that's our thinking,
That's what's gonna happen.
then that is true. And like I say, so many of us are in well, all of us are still living in third dimension, and we're shifting. We're shifting, but so far we don't have a lot of models that's in fifth, so we don't know that this is true. But it's a perspective shift that we have to make for ourselves. The realization that I am more than just this physical body. And the moreness is the biggest part of us. And so while we put all of our focus on this physical body and our experiences in this lifetime that we're living right now, we put all of our focus there, and we forget to lean into all of this that we really are. And we don't give all of this the power that it deserves. We only give this the power.
It's crazy you say that. I was thinking, and just why I used to have that mindset is because where I came, like my background, my environment, you know, and I had to learn, like from my parents, they had that strong mentality of thinking like, hey, you can't be vulnerable. You know, you have to. You can't tell everybody your business. Don't tell nobody what's going on over here. And, you know what I'm saying? So now I'm an adult and I'm grown and I have the awareness, but every now and then, you know, I'm in fifth, and then I go to fourth, you know, then I go to fourth, or then I go to 3D. But I understand, like, it's different now because my story is not their story, you know, and so I understand that is nobody. I'm loved, just period. You know, I'm loved, just period, and that's not the case. So I shouldn't be continuously telling myself that. And so when the times that I do recognize it, right, I just like, I catch myself. I'm like, hold on, you know, let's change this real quick. So yeah.
And not only are you loved, you are loved. You are love itself.
That's 21 minutes.
And when you moving with love and like realizing your higher self, is it a such thing as being vulnerable?
That's good.
Like, do it even exist?
No, I would say no.
I think it's impossible for it to exist to be vulnerable and then also be moving with love and as love. Because when you're moving as love, you realize that, well, whoever I'm about to share anything with is also me. And so I'm fine talking to myself at the bare minimum. So I feel like, you know, it's always, once you know, again, it's always, once you realize that everybody's connected and we're all the same and we all are one, and you're one with not only just every human, but literally everything, it makes grasping, like, what am I afraid of, a little easier for me, honestly.
And I think the other part that goes hand in hand with that is when you truly embrace that everything is happening for you. So no matter what the other side looks like, it's happening for you. And if you can embrace that, it's like, it's just this shift that happens, because when you start walking around the world like, oh, this is happening for me. Oh, I can't wait to see what's going to come out of this. So when you shift that, then it's like everything shifts with you. And then your experiences start showing up as, okay, this is happening for me. This is a good thing, you know. So just that perspective shift coming from love, taking the time to align yourself. Because when you're in a space where you're like, oh, I'm scared, or, you know, I don't want to put myself out there or whatever, you're not in alignment with who you really are. And so we can slip out of alignment because we're used to being not aligned. So it's easy to slip out. And when you catch yourself, just get back in and just, you know, lead with love, lead with, you know, light, you know, turn your light on, shine. And that's really the only thing you have to do is just slip back in to that groove, get yourself aligned, and then everything else will fall into place.
Well, I think that was awesome.
I'm just so happy and amazed to hear Annabeth speak again. It's gone so long.
I know, it's been a long time.
And for all us to be back.
It's been a while. And thank you guys for talking to me.
Anytime, brother Mike.
Yes, thank you for that topic on vulnerability. And I actually like when we're able to say, okay, this is third dimension, because we've all been there. This is fourth, and this is fifth. Like, I really like being able to have that separation so that anybody that's coming in new, they kind of can understand the different stages of what we're doing, what we're talking about. So thank you guys for joining us. It's so great for us to be back, and hopefully you all are glad that we're back as well. So we look forward to chatting with you again. Until then, this is Arvette.
And this is Steven.
Teron.
Rodney.
Bye, y'all.